What's going on? Boys, thanks to our patrons and Fiverr customers, subscribe to our Patreon free for behind the scenes stuff. Arm yourselves, life stuff. We have a primary topic for this video, but I think this is going to be a multiples one. Because between taking, I think, a 5-day break and making a tough crowd video, we lost our analytics momentum. And in my experience, when that happens, that's not a bad thing, that's an opportunity. When that happens, you talk about anything that might fuck up your analytics then. And that's what we're doing. We're not even doing ads on this video because I made a singular nickel off the last video. I've been thinking about art generally lately, but I noticed something recently with size art. Now, there are all sorts of different types of size art. You have the gentle nonsense, I think that comes out of either wanting to feel like you don't, at least in this space, need to bear the burden of your life, or maybe you're fantasizing about a better childhood or something. I would have sympathy for them, but gentle fans are fans. They aren't enjoyers or appreciators. They're very irritating. Gentle cry out as they strike you, ironically. Then you have a bunch in the middle, general pornography, nothing crazy in any direction. Lots of good scenarios in this space. And then you have cruelty aficionados on the other side. Even better scenarios depending on how they're played out. And there aren't hard boundaries here either. There can be, usually there aren't. Size is weird because you have a lot of stuff going on at the same time. But I think I noticed something about size artists. I've talked before, a while ago now, about the way some artists or people get it and others don't. Because it seems like a lot of people get into size later in life. Or this isn't something they're born with. Maybe they have some fascination, or there are aspects of it that are interesting to them. But it's not core. And you know when your kink is a core kink because you were engaging in it before you knew anything. It has always been there. And I'm of the mind, because you'll notice people who are into certain kinks or certain parts of certain kinks, they're all very similar in their personalities. And that's always been interesting to me, because if this were just a sex thing, you wouldn't think people would be like that. As an example, in the descending rings of furry hell, you know what a bottom circle furry is like, based on nothing but the fact you've clocked them as a terminal furry. You know what they are based just on that. On the flip side, you can be dealing with someone and they can be really weird and uncomfortable and gross you out, and you can know pretty confidently that's probably a furry. And I bring this up because there are divides within size too. And in terms of kinks, I feel, and why am I saying kinks? I hate that word. Kinks is a euphemism, but it feels grosser than saying fetishes. I lucked out in the fetish department because, for the most part, size is a good group of people. Lots of good eggs. And even the bad eggs aren't that bad. You can find fucked up and dreadful people, but you have to go really deep down and you have to do a lot of gene splicing and foul debauchery and shit. But at that point you're mixing with, it's a slime that filters down through the fetish filters and coalesces in the bottom where everyone is just the worst. And if you are unfortunate enough to be into certain extremes, it feels gross. It feels like a middle class person going to buy drugs in either a ghetto or a trailer park. You, you get skeeved out. And the product you get is almost never what you really want. Anyway, the divides. The divide we're talking about here is between people who get into it and people who are born into it. And something I've noticed size artists will do, and I'm sure it's not intentional, but to prove that they are in the born into it camp. Most size artists, whatever genre they normally specialize in, most of them will have at least a couple stomach turning pieces of art. Because even on the suffering side of size, there's, it's hard to explain. There's a lack of intensity, even if you're looking at something that's gruesome, like somebody getting vivisected or something. Whatever's going on, it could be super gruesome, but they'll cutesy it up, or they'll brush over parts, or even if they try to be graphic in detail, it doesn't upset you. But I think the mark of a high caliber size artist is their ability to unsettle you. And if you go digging, most of the great size artists will have at least a few pieces of artwork that will unsettle you. And I have a few in my mind, but the reason I'm thinking about this is I saw one recently from an artist I would not have expected to really get it like this. And it's still in my head. That's disturbing. What you're seeing in the artwork I'm thinking of, or in any of this sort of artwork, it's the desecration of a human. Size is all about, or at least superficially, in reduction of size, it's shrinking or growing. But reduction superficially is the name of the game. But I think reduction is what size is at its core. Philosophically or spiritually, the reduction of a person from a person into something else. Usually some sort of casualty or consequence of existing around a greater being. And size has always been something of a church to me. And I think this observation speaks to why. What you're looking at in these fetish artworks is the nature of your existence. You aren't just looking at death or something adjacent to death. It is, and it's not just ego death either, it's ego murder. You are sexualizing the fact something like this could happen to you at any moment. An unknowing, unfeeling existence could smear you into nothing out of nowhere. Alternatively, someone could shoot you to death or beat you to death, or an animal could kill you and eat you. It's not that your inalienable rights are being violated or can be violated. Rights you think are inalienable can be violated. It's that those rights don't exist, and what does exist is a hierarchy. And you are never high enough on this hierarchy to protect yourself from what life can do to you. And the artwork, the particular artwork I'm thinking of, the one that upset my monkey brain tummy most recently, we're not putting ads on this video, so we'll describe it. It's a rotting corpse, but that there remain evidence of the spark of life that was there. I've never liked open casket funerals because bodies that are done up like that, they creep me out in a different way. They're unsettling because it's uncanny valley is what it is. This is supposed to look like a person, and it was a person, but in every way, other than in superficialities, it's not. It's a different sort of eerie. I don't like open casket funerals. But this artwork, and you see this if you look at bodies sometimes, not done up, not prepared. This was a person, and to look at it, it still is. Makes me think of Full Metal Jacket when they're all standing around the body. Better you than me. That line, for a lot of my life, that line bothered me, but more recently, maybe in the last few years, that line I've come to appreciate. It's not what I thought it was. It's a statement of fact. And in fact, it's in a if your heart has been hardened, that's actually a pretty empathetic thing to say. Because you're not giving condolences to this other thing. You are recognizing that the thing you're looking at could have just as easily been you. There's a kinship in it. So when you look at a piece of artwork like this, it's upsetting because it hits you in a way that you realize that could be you. And one day, probably, well, everybody's gonna die, but I'm talking about the brutality of having your soul smushed out like that. It's the ultimate truth and the ultimate terror, at least for this plane of existence, transmuted into something sexualized, but not really, here. And I think these artists do this on occasion because I think we all feel called in this same direction. We're all scholars or acolytes of this same thing. Even with the gentle people, there's often great emphasis placed on what could be done to you. Size is a bunch of things, but here, two things. One, it's an acute awareness of the sword hanging over your head. And two, an acute awareness that someone is holding it. And it's not like this feeling or this awareness is specific to size. I'm almost afraid to watch. I don't watch much TV. I've never watched any Black Mirror. But I've heard of a Star Trek type episode where a dude makes digital clones of his coworkers and then tortures them in his computer. I'm uneasy about watching that. And even well, actually, no. Some of the clips bothered me, but it looks like they pussied out later. I don't know if it's a sequel or if later in the episode, the original episode, they pussied out, but the people win in the end, or the little digital clones win in the end. But before I knew that disturbed me because that hits in the exact upsetting way size does. And in life, something I'm noticing is lots of people when they're uncomfortable with something or they're afraid of something, they don't want to talk about it, or they want to ignore it, or they want to deny that it exists, or they want to deny that it bothers them, or they try to bury it in any number of things. They'll try to bury it in preparations they make. They'll try to bury it in reasoning they look to philosophers for. They never want to hang with the fact this could happen to you. Not exactly this, but something like this. Ultimate reduction. Ultimate disempowerment. And I think what size does at its highest levels is makes you look at it. And that's something you find in life. When something really bothers you, you have to look at it. You need to desensitize yourself to it as much as you can. But another thing I found is typically the stuff you're most afraid of speaks to that fear, that base fear of powerlessness. Even something as small as spiders. I'm rather arachnophobic. Why do spiders scare me this much if they're smaller than you and you can kill them? A serious spider can fuck you up. And there isn't a lot you can do about it. I got bitten by a venomous spider for the first time ever, I think late last year, maybe early this year. And there was no way I could have seen that coming. I went to pick up my phone, and I guess a spider had gotten on it and I didn't see it because it was the same color as the phone, and it bit me. And my hand swelled up. It was fine, but it could have so easily not have been. What if that were a more venomous species? Life says now, all of a sudden, nothing you can really do to prevent it. I've already taken a lot of measures to keep spiders away from me. Fuck you, and there's nothing you can do about it. And that's bad enough. That on its own is bad enough. But it's so much worse when a human being is the one that has that level of fuck you power over you. All that your life could have been, and now you've been reduced to a smaller, weaker thing being processed by a larger, stronger thing. There's something slaughterhousey about it. And with size, why is size so upsetting? I think it's in part because if life itself decides to tell you to go fuck yourself and ruin you in some way, there's no face on that. And it's probably not personal, and even if it is, it's not personal in a way you can understand or you'll ever be aware of. But when it's coming from a human being, it's bad enough to be dehumanized and made to suffer by the unknowable. It's so much worse when it's happening at the hands of something very knowable, something unworthy of having this power over you. Maybe even something lesser than you. And that's part of why you need, if not to force yourself to do gruesome things sometimes, then at least to get comfortable with the idea of them in your head. Because the golden rule, or the ideal outcome of the golden rule, it's false. It doesn't matter what you do. You can live your entire life righteously, you can do everything right, you could be a great person, you can build yourself up to the point you feel invulnerable, and then all of a sudden, someone will do the worst thing imaginable to you. And the only way, really, to prepare yourself for that is to try to become one of these people yourself, which If you're not born to it, probably you'll never be, but you have to try, because if you don't, they're coming for your ass. You need to try to make yourself someone who can realistically say, I will turn you into clothes, or I'll eat you like I ate these people. And I think this is something I was wrestling with when I was much younger. The fact this is an ugly world and people are horribly ugly. And the only real way to deal with it is to get as comfortable as you can with it realistically and as prepared as you can be realistically. And I am woefully unprepared. And I'm aware of that, and it upsets me. It upsets me that I am incapable, at least as I am right now, of becoming as prepared as I need to be, as I could be. But we were talking about fear. Lots of these fears, they turn you away, but one of the reasons I think size exists, or maybe fetishes that tap into the same thing size does, is that's an attractor. Sexuality somehow makes confronting this okay and also desirable, as in this is something you should seek out. And it's so weird because the more, when you're deeper into size, the more something turns your stomach, the better you recognize it as quality. The more it upsets you on a mortal existential level, the better it is, and eventually it will stop bothering you. And you don't have to fight to make this desensitization happen. It's joy. I think we're going to cut it here. I don't know what it is, but always with these size videos, I can talk for 20 minutes and I feel like I'm not really talking. I'm not making the point I know is there to be made. And with other topics, because I'll get this feeling with other topics sometimes, if I sit and think about it for a while, I can come up with another direction to attack it from and get closer. Some topics you'll never totally get it, but you can get closer. Think of it from a different angle. There is something that totally eludes language with size. Size is like a temple of savagery. You study it and worship it and practice it and know it because it's the truth, but there's also a beauty in it and an elegance. It feels like a lot of pressure. Like the end of The Outer Dark, or I think it's just Outer Dark. That whole book, I didn't like much of that book. There were a few parts I liked. Mainly I liked the killers, the weird-ass killers, and then the very end with the guy walking into the swamp maybe the wrong way. That end scene, there was an immense pressure. Watching this blind dude walk maybe the wrong way into a swamp. You are in the presence of an immense truth that you can feel, but you can't totally understand and you can't word, obviously. It's like you're staring at the sun if the sun were invisible. It's everything. It's gotta be a cosmic horror sort of thing. You know it, but you can't understand it. Like a monolith with the monkeys. If it were invisible, the monolith were invisible, and the monolith were everything. Because this feels like everything, the church of everything. And you know it and you feel it, but you don't understand it. But we will cut it here. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't.